Satisfied with Allah as Lord, with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the messenger, and Islam Medina, or Islam as a way of life. We want to talk today about, I consider it a high level of Islam and a high level of reality, and so just bear with us. There's a key event. Just the other day, I think it might have been Sunday, I made a little announcement that we're going to go out the next day and we're going to take our little speaker and da-da-da-da-da, and we're going to go to the dentist's office, and we're going to go to the auto place. Both of those places have really abused their situation a lot. But technically it wasn't abuse, it was cooperation. Cooperation with their own downfall. And the United States government has done nothing to us except cooperate in its own downfall. We'll try to explain that. Now, of course, anyone would understand that we have some knowledge of who we're working with and what we're dealing with during today's time. So what I said was last Sunday was for a certain reason. Now, after I said what I said in class, that night, let's say 9:30 or 10 o'clock, I get a call. And the call was from the dentist's office, from the secretary. They don't use, this is Sunday night, there's no reason to call. But we got a spot for you in the morning. Can you get by at 9 in the morning? I said, sure. So we got by there, and they was telling me again that we took pictures of your teeth, and we want to pull today 2 of them, and later on the whole 4 on this side. I said, absolutely not. So again, they stalled, because when I told them that last week, that's why they stalled all the last week, because of course, if you were to look at my teeth, you would see that there had been, just like the auto place will fix your car on one end and set something else up to come apart soon. It's the same thing they've been doing over at the dentist's office for a long, long time. Of course, I've been knowing it. So not only that, but all the other things that go on. So what Allah will give you when you really ask for it properly is sabr. And the hadith talks about various types of sabru wa nifsu liman. A lot of people have heard that getting married is a perfection of half of your faith. And that's true. Then there's another hadith, it's called As-Sabru Jamilan, a beautiful patience. And when we combine those ideas, it's talking about a historical, by the gift of time, all of that stuff, walas, all those things fit together at a certain time if you are tuned into it. That there's this, what we always call tafweed and rida. Tafweed is when Musa says that I turned my whole self over to Allah. In other words, I put all of my affairs in the hands of Allah. Okay. Tafweed. And then rida is when you are happy with what you receive. Okay, now over a long period of time, you fancy yourself as a fast runner or an organizer or whatever, and we've always been into pre-planning and organizing. And the more we got into this stuff, it was like, hey man, we gonna set Bossman up. Why would we want to set Bossman up? Because you go back over 40 years ago, the first go round in this, or you can call it first and second go round. Bossman got full charge of everything. And I remember when I was in 3300, that's the LA County Jail, and I came from South America, and I had several $1,000s, and I was to turn myself in to, and that was based on a signal, because I had a big meeting. In fact, we was at my son remembers the Country Club Hotel in Tijuana, Mexico. See, I wouldn't come across the border, but we had a big meeting. There's the racetrack over there, a big parking lot, and then there's the big, beautiful hotel. So my oldest son remembers that meeting very well. So I had a big meeting there, and I had all the Negroes come down. And there we had structured and planned our next move. We just gonna, bam, hit this cracker and bust him up wide open. And we're going to, this is the Negro level of, this is what we did at that time. We put together the package that I'm living in Colombia at this time, and I would go between Colombia and Mexico from time to time. And my idea was already in process. We would purchase property all along the border, and we would send things up there and then send it over the border a little bit at a time. Not a little bit, but then it would be considered a lot. Because we wanted the Negro to control something for a change. And this is before the Colombians were coming up here and got connections up here. Right. Yeah, see. Documentary on that. Yeah. Took a while. Okay. Right. Now imagine if I go down there in 71 or 72 and I see, bop, that's the situation. So automatically the little tools that you have going is what we'll do. They produce it. They get it to us. We transport it, and then we distribute it. Because the Negro never controlled nothing, nor did they even think about running the whole show. But that's the way I thought like that. So we had the meeting, and I had my friend bring me, I was on a new wild, not wild, but free as a bird trip. So I had him buy me, at that time, a Honda 750 was the biggest bike that the Honda made. Now they make them up in the zillions. But that was big enough. A 550 is big enough to ride. But so the 750 was big enough that now I'm going to go all down the Pan American Highway. And then I'm going to go, I have freedom of movement, more or less. I don't have to get a plane. I don't have to do nothing. I can zip, 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 in and out, and on a bike. And I left Tijuana, and I was headed across, I guess it's called Highway 2, and then the highway ran out. And so the sand popped up, And then the asphalt popped up again. So luckily I had a helmet on and everything, but I took a dive. Now they tell you that you're not a real rider until you take a dive. Well, I took a dive. Now I told right in back of me was a tow truck, a Mexican tow truck. Or not if they was waiting for it, but they was just they was there. So they drove me up to the border, and we took it, put it outside of the Honda shop in Mexicali, I believe it was. That's right on the border. Then, but that was a sign. That was a signal. Just like thing today, yesterday, day before, when I put certain things out and certain things happened, that was a sign. It was not only a sign, but it was a sign for this whole period. Now, you don't know when the sign or the signal is going to come. The sign I got in 73, I looked at it and I took it. I said, that means it's time for you to wrap this stuff up and clean up this whole thing and go on in and take care of it. After all, number one, you're rich. You're richer than when you got started down there. You're rich and you're healthy. I mean, since you didn't have nothing to do, you get on a health trip, and all kind of, well, I lived off mostly vegetables and fruits. And believe it or not, my average weight was my lowest weight was 165 or 64. And I never got over 100 and something. I never got anywhere close to 200 pounds. And I mean, I'm of course same size now. And I lift iron every day. In fact, I did it almost twice a day. Walked in the morning up in the hills. I'm talking about the only time I was juicier was now than then. I mean, just juiced up. So anyway, that was a sign. That motorcycle going down, it was a sign. That okay. That means something. So all the way on the ride to the border and hanging out at the border for a minute, I said, well, I'm going to take care of all of this. Because number one, I done been over in Africa and the black movement is dead. Technically, I don't have any more reason to make money because the reason I was doing that is to make money for the brothers. And I had just came back from overseas. They wasn't in Algeria. When I went to Tanzania, that's where Pete was. And the brothers was all over Africa. I left a little something, whatever it was. And then so actually, I had set up for this, but when your heart is not in it, so a lot of people don't follow their little hints and stuff. And at that time, I did, just like the other day. Like the reason I'm doing this now is because of what happened the other day. It would be this happens all the time. But at this time, the little tooth thing, the way the people react and all that, it was this time to do this. I mean, I've been working on this all the time. I got just tons of stuff. I've been working on this all the time for decades. I mean, here's the thing, how to punk the FBI. Man, this thing is back in 2007. That must be 15 years ago. 2007.
Yeah, that sure was. Yep.
Yeah, that's 15 years ago. I mean, how to punk the FBI and all that, all that. That ain't. So this thing about redundancy and the ability to go over things over and over again. I'm gonna try to speed this up because without explaining every little detail, I'm gonna just go on into it. So it come to me at the dentist's office. Well, when they called Sunday night, that was a click off. I said, okay, that's it. So when they called me, I got prepared and da 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 da, and I've been taking notes. And this is what I'm going to talk about today. This is the answer to a great the first cycle of this. We were unprepared. And in your 20s, how are you going to be prepared for a government been doing something? So when I was in South America, I set all of this stuff up, and then I'm going to present this to the court. That number one, y'all set me up in 1971, and that's a setup. And then I had to leave the country and do what I'm doing to prove that I'm honest John and what have you. And all my witnesses are mostly drug dealers and all that stuff. So they going along with it, but they don't really want to do it. So by the time I go to the county jail and I turn myself in, I walk up to the jail and I said, I'm so and so and I have a warrant. And the police typed in, then he pulled out his gun. He said, put your hands up, and then they called the FBI. The FBI came and I had my money there and I had a card. Believe it or not, the card I had was the attorney that did the O.J. Simpson thing, the Negro attorney. I actually got his card. It's an old one. But anyway, I had his card and another one from up my way, or down that way, Herman English. So anyway, I went on in the jail and I had $25,000, and then finally because I was going to hire me an attorney. That don't sound like much now, but at that time, that was a lot of money, cash money. So then when I get my slip, it says he had $5,000, and then they took that. So I had a friend. I got all the paperwork for that. Brought me. I said, "Man, bring me some more money." He brought me 10,000, put it on the books. Then I got something in the mail up there saying that you owe the government $10,000, from the state. So they took that. I said, "Well, that's it." I said, "I'm not going to do that anymore." Anyway, after a period of time, they unraveled the case. If you wonder where the patience and the longevity and the ability to put up with stuff over and over and over and over again comes from, it's because of that. That I said, next time around, we're going to have redundancy in so much, we're going to redundate your behind, and we're going to do stuff so many times that I could flip a coin and snatch the stuff out of the air. I don't have to look for it. I don't have to go. Everybody knows it. All the DVD, CDs, first of all, cassettes, then CDs, then DVDs. They're all over. Now, Bossman, and he's been able to, he thinks, slow them down and corral them. That's not true. because we've been thinking all the time. So Bossman don't know where all of them are. And the stuff is so redundant. And I'm saying anybody that has even one of these CDs, even one of these DVDs, hold on to it. If you got 10 or 20, you bargain with Bossman. If you got 20, say I was able to hustle up 5, Bossman, and I'll give them to you for $1 million. Something like that. I'm telling you what to do. If you don't do it, you're a dummy. Because to you, they're not worth nothing, a nigga just talking. But the Bossman, it fits into a certain thing. Now, you got 20 of them. You said, Bossman, I done found another 5. Good God Almighty. And you bargain with him for those. And before you turn them over, you've got, of course, you don't copy them all. You don't copy them all. You copy these niggas? Oh, no, Bossman, I wouldn't do that. This is the original thing. Okay, I'm just telling you how to get rich. Because, see, the snitches and the collaborators are poor and daily niggas. I'm telling you how to get rich off just being around. And when you finish hearing, you'll say, the nigga is right. So, as we move along, in 3300, actually they got another one that's even crazier. It's the crazy house in L.A. County Jail. They got, or what they was calling at that time, the new county. The picture you see on the badge that they have from L.A., that spiral building, that's the old county jail from way back when. Then they got a new county jail that takes about 7,000 people. But then now that's the semi-new, and they got a new one that has at least 10,000 people. So remember, the LA County Jail takes care of all of Los Angeles County. They got a lot of folks going to jail out there. Okay, so they had me in that, not the old county, the building you see on the badge and you see on TV all the time popping up. That's the old county, what we call in the old county. Then they had the new county. Now, when I say new counties, I'm talking about the early 70s. And now probably 10 times. It's probably 1 million people in jail in LA County. You know, the whole county, the city of Los Angeles is 457 square miles. So LA County is like a country. No, you go from Big Bear up in the mountains where it's snow to the desert in Los Angeles County. Yeah, LA County. You go from the desert to the mountains. Okay. I'm going to try to speed it up. So when I was in 3300, I got all this case together and I done put it together. But they put me in the psycho part, you know, where it's doo-doo all on the walls and it's filthy, you know. And so I'm laying there on the floor. There's nothing else to do, laying there on the floor. I'm looking up, and then the white man with a trainee comes by with a white coat and a clipboard. And he's telling, this one here has cycles, talking about me. And I'm looking at that. And then, so they actually believe that now, if they take me out of the psycho ward and I go and tell the white folks that the big criminal system is a big criminal system, and then I'm fighting my own case because I don't trust lawyers anymore. But they give me a little side lawyer just to handle, you know, public defender. So I tell him the story. I said, so what do you think about that? He says, seems like you have a real lively imagination. In other words, he don't believe it. Collins was his name. Yeah, anyway, you don't believe it. But he's a federal public defender, and he's been told about me, so he's not going to believe it. He ain't supposed to believe it. That's his job, to listen to them, not to me. But anyway, to make a long story short, I look at everything that's set up. I look at my witnesses. They didn't pull them apart and told all of them, well, if you go to trial for Big Hank and tell that story, you'll never work again. You want to deal dope for the rest of your life? Well, you won't be dealing no dope. You're going to be poor. And if you sell one matchbox of marijuana, you go into the penitentiary. And they know the government can do that because there's snitches everywhere. Anyway, so all of my witnesses easing away, and they busy. I got one of the letters from the white boy. What did I do? I had him, he was in the penitentiary. But you have to realize they have white boys and Negroes that are snitches, that it's their job to go to jail and do all of that, and that helps their reputation. So at this time, he was in Soledad. So his wife at that time, what is it says, Mary's mom, and her husband Richard went to the autopsy down south, or it was in Marysville, when Hank's wife, this is the guy, Hank, not me, Hank, but the white man, the one that was taking me down to Mexico, the one that set me up. Here's what they say in this letter, that Hank has died. And the way the feds is presenting it to me is he died in Mexico. And it just so happens you was down there at that period. And what we'll do is we'll blame his death on you. We'll do whatever we can with the government. And you know they have the ability. Finally, he said, tell you what, you haven't been too bad of a guy. You just gone to the penitentiary and looked the other way. And instead of 25 or 50 years like you deserve, I don't deserve no time. I didn't start this, they did. But they have you thinking that, you know, you started dealing dope. Anyway, so basically it was, I just went into court and just silent and let Uncle Tom talk. And went on off to the penitentiary with a 5-year sentence, which I only did 38 months or something. You know, and everybody else did do like 25, 30 years. They was doing time, boy. And so technically, for all of this stuff and all of this life and all of this learning, I just had a little time to rest. And when I came home as a Muslim, right? And I went back for a while, but when I came out that time, I was an Imam. And they threw a little something on the thing, and I came out, I was a better Imam. But I mean, when I'm going back now, I'm going back for a few months, stuff like that. Not no long time. All of this is preparation. It reminds us of the ayat where it says in the Quran that I had my hand on you all along. Talking about Musa. Man, I had you covered all along. And then relate the stuff that got thrown in the water, this, that, and another, came up and got hooked up with your mama again. What do you want? And to me, that is the same basic story, except it's in modern times. So this thing about tafweed and ridha. Tafweed is like right now, I'm putting my whole trust in Allah on everything. Number one, when are you going to execute all of this stuff? You got all this stuff? Well, bam. Just the other day, the dentist is the key. The dentist is the key. Because I know when I say that I'm going to demonstrate in front of the dentist's office, they got to do something in a hurry. They got to. Because they don't want me out in front of the dentist's office talking. I know them better than they know me. This stuff been going on too long. It's redundancy. I already know what you know what I mean? I'm not saying Allah knows what people are going to do. But I have it on superior authority from repetitious behavior that if you present them with certain things, they're going to do that. And that's what all of these decades, this thing here, like I said, this is 15 years old. How to punk the FBI. I knew what they was going to do then, and we have a pretty good idea what they're going to do right now. Because this is a different time. This is a different time because we don't have, I don't imagine that is enough time left to be redundant. I can't learn much more from this redundancy stuff. And just like I always liked the Muhammad Ali fight when the guy, George Foreman, I think all his fights was up to 5 rounds. And he knocked everybody out before then. So Muhammad Ali knew, and you could see him carrying him. And so in the 5th and 6th round, I think he took him out in the 8th round. But by the 6th and 7th round, what's the name was just like washing windows. He wasn't hurting Muhammad Ali at all. So now all he has to do is think, when will I take him out? And he did. Because he was in charge of that. Now, what everybody thought about it, if you listened to it, and if you even watched it, you would think that is a terrible beating. I was in the penitentiary when I heard of McNeil Island. It sounded terrible. I mean, just listening to that, and Farman hits him. Oh, he hits him. He hits him. And he was doing a rope-a-dope. And although Muhammad Ali said when he would hit him in the elbow sometime, he could feel it all over his body. You ever hear that? But no, he could, that's the way, remember now, okay, if you take Ali and Joe Frazier, one is 99 and the other is 100. But you see how 99 would fight Muhammad Ali? When they fought in the Thrilla in Manila, Muhammad Ali said, cut these gloves off. He was ready to say, I quit, no more. You see that? He was so tired in that heat, and Joe Frazier was with him. But look what George Foreman did to Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier walked out of there going to do that stuff, and woof, woof, woof. And that was it. The point I'm saying is, if you fight your fight. We have been fighting Bossman, our fight, and we never became anxious about it. We just planned ahead. But now we're living in a different time. We're living in a time when we don't know, nobody knows, but things Bossman may be getting short on time. So we have to increase. Now, what are we talking about increasing? So, man is now, Bossman has to furnish us right now. I mean, with next, just $1 million for working capital, just $1 million. And then we'll negotiate about, it keeps increasing because American money is losing value fast. So we're now at $500 million. That's what we want Bossman to give us. We can negotiate that, but we want $1 million right away because we got stuff to do, and you know what I mean. And whatever we negotiate, we'll stick by that. Why would we do something like that? I have a picture of this is a playbook, South Africa, right? This is actually it was a magazine. This is a magazine that they put out. But I just got these staples and a copy of it. And these are girls at a Muslim school. None of them are Muslims. They all wearing hijab and everything. They're black students, and the Muslims run this school. So I talked to my daughters. I could see their little shoes and everything, you know, and stuff. So I talked to my daughters. I said, y'all want to work with a project with me? They said, sure. And I showed them the picture. I said, we'll raise about $10,000 and we'll go over and we'll let these kids here, these girls, have a spending spree. In other words, they could spend what would be like equivalent to, let's say, $100, which would be a ton. They could buy shoes, outfit. And so I was telling the South African guys, the Indian guys. I said, what's up? Don't do that. That won't help. That won't do. No. I'm going to just speed up. They didn't want the girls to know that somebody outside of those people cared anything about them, and especially was ready to spend money on them. They didn't want us to gain stature amongst these girls. And when we saw them, that's automatic. Hey, these are homegirls. Shoot, $100 a piece in South Africa? At least $100 a piece, right? So I said, my daughter, y'all want to go over? We get you over, and then we'll buy, we'll take 10 a day and go out and shopping. No, it'll destroy their. I said, this will help their self-image more than. I said, yeah, you're doing all that. That's good. But we know what our people need. Just imagine a girl has never had any, nobody care anything about them, and some Negroes from over there come and they every time they look at their new shoes and their little outfit in the mirror, they'll think about us. And they'll think somebody cares about me. And they'll look in the mirror and imagine the fun they're going to have. 10 of them a day, or maybe 20 if they can get 2 shifts. They're going to go and they're going to shop, and this is the money. We change it to rands, and they can get, they can get what they want. We don't want to make them, but we want them to spend it wisely, but they don't have to. They don't have to. Okay. So every time they look in the mirror, right? And the Indians of South Africa saying, that's not going to help them. I say self-esteem helps everybody. You know what I mean? To feel good about yourself helps everybody. If you got shoes that are run over, everybody feels bad about that. Or holes in your shoes, every one of them is from a township. And they never even thought about nothing like that with all the money they have. Now you got to remember, these are big, fat, rich guys. And I want to bring all of them into this. And I'll try to be brief. Y'all heard what Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui said. Okay. You know that was at a big conference and they all heard it. To me, it's just like Gadir Kum when the Prophet said about, right? About Ali. Everybody heard it, but did nobody act on it, right? Everybody heard it. And everybody knew what it meant. He's getting ready to pass away, and out of all the people he knows, because see, he got in the car and he rode to the airport with Sister Bahia and myself. And Sister Bahia kept asking, what was he trying to say? I don't know what he's trying to say. Because the driver, Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui, and me, why was he doing that with me? And he know. What about all the other brothers? All the speeches, all the programs we've had all over the world. Why is he focused on me? Because he know he's getting ready to pass away. I mean, the doctors and told him, you go to South Africa, you won't be back here. And technically the doctor was right. But I looked at the brothers. Man, Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui had that big speech. Hey, man, he turned white and rocked back and forth, and the whole audience was doing it with him. Ooh, you know, you hear that sound. And they thought he was getting ready to go because everybody knew his situation. Then he got himself together. But did the brothers give him any rest? No. Zafa Bangash and all of them. Come up to Botswana with us, you know. Oh, I don't want to. I'll just take it easy here. So they come on up. They're tiring him out. When a plane didn't come to the airport to pick us up, the richest man in Botswana has one of them flight services. So he sent one of his planes up to pick us up. It's only a 4-hour drive, so it's only an hour flight to, you know. So they sent his personal plane to pick us up and pilot, and they took us on. And he was saying on the plane, I'm kind of tired. He was tired. 2 days after we left, if we left on the 16th, on the 18th, he died right there where he was staying at. Okay. But everybody heard. These whole crews over there, these super rich South Africans, these crews from a tribe. It starts with M and ends with M. And their behavior changed. I mean, when the last time I was there, it was clear. I mean, this thing is so well coordinated. They knew I was getting ready to come to South Africa, so they sent a letter asking me to come to do a fundraiser for them. Travel, so that's why I travel all over the place. Remember, I was talking about Australia. I was talking about South Africa. So, shoot, if I go around South Africa, I can raise $1 million easy. Simple. I don't know how much we raised for them, but they didn't need it, but we raised tons and tons of money. No problem. I didn't say, hey, man, I was going to do the fundraising myself. So I said, oh, I'll go and, I'm a team player, no doubt about it. They're not team players. Them people are focused on making sure that nobody do anything. This crew, when you look at their history, that tribe, no matter what happens with me, there's a there's 3 or 4 big South African crews that are very wealthy. The number one crew, which is our crew, they way out in front of everybody. The number two crew is behind them and building mosques and different other things. But okay. So they can't get rid of me. Because if I slip on a banana peel, the second crew that already have heard about certain things, right? Hey, they gonna dig as deep as they can. Because if you remember some years ago, the government over there, when they passed all these new laws, terrorism laws, South Africa had their terrorism law. They arrested a lot of the Indians, Miss Dokrit and all of them. I got a picture. They're raising big money for just Africans. The other crew spends zillions on Africans, but in a way that they want it to be done, not in a way that's helpful. All the South Africans have been assaulted and everything and beat all upside the head from Negroes. Now these Muslims helped the Negro get his freedom and liberation. And the Negro repays them by busting them upside the head. And them AK-47s left over from the rebellion, they'd be this is when I would go there. They'd throw big bricks out on the highway and they'd be right there behind the ditch. And when you stop, they'd come out with them AK-47s. I mean, it was dangerous for Muslims. And I was telling them they would get robbed every day. It was because since all the Muslims lived in their neighborhoods. And they was afraid and paranoid, and I couldn't tell them a lot what to do, but if anybody remembers from my lectures that I was saying, if you want to help the South African, then you help him become wealthy. You move up, I don't know if anybody remembers that, and then you bring him up so that he has something to hold on to. You teach him how to. I said, you have to sit there with him because he's an African. I wasn't down on Africans, but I said, you have to sit there with that boy and make sure this money that you're getting in from your store today is your store. It's not to spend. You have to buy new stuff. Because a nigga would think, this money coming in, I'll spend it. Right? And then he can't buy nothing new. When that's gone, the store is empty, the business is gone. So the Indian has to sit there with him for a long time, maybe months, maybe years, till it's dug in that you don't spend no money on yourself for at least 5 or 10 go-rounds. You spend money on your property. You build it up. And you expand. And so this is what I was telling the brothers that they have to do with the African. In the meantime, the African is beating this guy. When I would go to South Africa, every time I see some guy with big bandages on, they was beating them and kidnapping them, and then you tell them you should help them. And they was thinking, we spent all our money and time. to break down apartheid, and now they're beating us and they're doing this. I said, well, you don't have but certain things you can do. You can leave them alone and they'll just beat you more and steal more. Because the police now is Negroes. Their cousin is the Negro captain chief of police. I said, and y'all are not smart. What do you mean we're not smart? We do what we can. I say, when I come here, finally I tell them, when I realized it was when I was there years ago, before I was leaving, I was going to give one of the servants $50, the one that took care of the children, the other servant that helped cook $50, and the other servant that cleaned, because the wealthy people had a different servant to do all that stuff. So I was there a long time. So I said, I'm gonna give them 50 American dollars because I didn't have no change. Don't do that, don't do that. And these are the richest people in South Africa. Give it to us and we'll give it to them. So I said, okay, here you go. I'm sure you give it to them. I didn't do it anymore though. Why would they get robbed and beat upside the head? Number one, they're hiring people that still have the old system. Hire everybody from the neighborhood, from the township. And the girls that clean up the house got a brother, a cousin, a uncle, and everybody else. And the girl tells them they got this, that, and they was robbing them blind. I mean, and beating them, and they knew almost where to look. They knew where to look. They was, and hey man, it was unfair. But they wouldn't listen to us. And me, when I would be in one of the townships and I'd be or in the Muslim area, I would always be waving at some of the sisters that worked in the house, because they would change jobs sometime. But they always remembered me. Why? Because I'd leave them something. I'd leave them. It wouldn't be nothing to me. Say I leave them $20. That's a month's salary. Probably not paying them no more than that. I know they were. You know what I mean? And they would. That's a Negro doing that. Some of their own people. That's why I wanted to do it, because nobody was traveling with us would even think like that. But I'm just thinking, hey, you want to get people to remember you? You leave them something. They'll sure remember you. And I'm telling you, I could go right down the street right now and Lodium or anywhere else, and they'll remember as many years ago as that was. But also, I would take care of myself though. I mean, they wouldn't have to wash my clothes, but that's what they were there for. Oh, you wash it. I said, oh, I wash my own clothes. I put them out on the line. I don't need nobody. You know where we are. I don't need no. And the sisters would see that, and they said, these niggas is different than you know. They was thinking, well, if I was staying here, I'd sure have them wash my clothes or me wash. Anyway, we made friends with all the people. And even our Indian friends, they couldn't get it. They didn't understand what was going on. I used to watch the sisters. They'd get one day off, and maybe it'd be Saturday evening. They would be getting a Sunday off, and they'd be in the back, and the lady would be driving them to their township and everything. And you should see them girls, boy, they would have a grin on their, they're like they're getting out of the penitentiary. And the people should think that they should be happy to work here for us. They wasn't happy at all. They just had to do it. And right? See, I'm just trying to say, I don't want to take all the time, but our people don't understand nothing. They don't understand nothing. And they definitely didn't understand, hey, you take a little bit of money and help them. If it's somebody's birthday or somebody, hook them up. They were still had an apartheid mentality. Like, we want you guys to have your freedom and everything, but we'll get you lawyers, all that stuff, but as far as a big super salary where you can take care of your family and all of that, we ain't about that. We're still stingy Indians. If they come here for an Islamic program, we're going to spoil them to death and feed them to death. But in sharing this wealth, and that's why the brothers was robbing our brothers so much. It was sad. And so the brothers had a little change of policy. The brothers from Malawi was Muslims. And of course the South Africans, the Xhosas, and everything else, And so the Muslims started hiring mostly Muslims, which were nicer, but they were foreigners. And when you would go to the Masjid, I started seeing, everybody's African, but all these doers that they know from South Africa, Indian, these guys know them good, and they're leading the prayers, they're doing everything. But they're not South Africans. And South Africans are mad at people from Nigeria, Malawi, foreigners coming in here taking our stuff, coming in here taking our job. So the brothers are not stupid, but they don't get it. They're African, but Africans refer to, if you read the books, they refer to each tribe as races. That's that race, that's this race. We just say, everybody's black. They're a different tribe, and they're different. They got different language, different customs, and we got to have some special agreement for us to work together. For them, everybody's African. This is crazy. Okay, nobody wanted to pay attention to us. Finally, they're coordinated with California. They're coordinated with Zafar and them up there. They're coordinated with Great Britain, because the great project of Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui fell through because they wouldn't follow it up. I said, what are we going to do with Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui's? Well, we're going to do something else. Institute of Contemporary Islamic Thought. I said, that ain't nothing. Hell, what about Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui's non-territorial government and all of that stuff? They didn't do it. You notice they didn't do that. They put their foot on it and stopped it. And they brought out all the fitna. That's when I realized that everybody was the police. Everybody. When I say everybody, that's what I mean. I said, man, that's cold-blooded. I said, not only they was trying to work Dr. Siddiqui to death so he would die. And he died. And that great institution he put together, no, we're going to do something else. And they had it sabotaged. You couldn't do anything about it. I was trying to do the best I can, but I'm from over here, and I couldn't. And then they stopped me from even going over there, Stop that nigga from going over there because he can come over here. He can raise enough. That's why they stopped that nigga. You came over here talking that trash. Because when I was over there in 2006, the time before that, by 2008, don't let that nigga back no more. Because he's letting out all of these things. He knows what happened. And anyway, this is a dirty thing. Okay, so here it is, boss man. So you get your nice rest. That we just need $1 million to get our stuff going right now. But this thing on $500 million is negotiable because it sounds like a lot of money to you, but inflation is going on. We started at 300 million, now we're up at 500 million. Because we cannot do anything close to something that would be beneficial without that type of stuff. And just because you look and you say, well, you're not worth that, nigga. Well, we are worth that. We're worth more than that. We're just trying to be reasonable with your behind. And another thing, boss man, if you haven't figured it out yet, you're on the way out. And we've asked you and coddled you and tried to get you to cooperate, and you're not in a cooperative mood. And some kind of way, you done got so thick-headed and stupid. May I remind you, your president that can't remember what day it is going around and like the niggas on Thorazine, Prolixer, right? If you said that too like he been taking dope, I'm just telling you, it ain't us. Everybody sees that, right? It's like a joke. Respect what? You'll be going down and you're going to get it. Don't nobody respect. Look, like the scriptures are right. And all of the stuff it predict, the fall of Babylon. And one day, the great Babylon, it wasn't one day, it was a long period of time that all of a sudden, whoosh, that's where it's headed now. Everything is pointed that way. Okay, we're not trying to interfere with the process of history, but we have made some general studies, and we came to the conclusion that when the thing crashes, the poor will get crushed first. The rich gonna fall on top of them, and they gonna cushion the fall for the rich folks. That's a general pattern of history. It's not anything new. The Negroes at the bottom, our friends, our relatives, our family, they're going first. And the big rich, when they fall, they're going to fall on top of them and cushion the fall. Okay. So, we want to help. That's exactly what we want to do. And we're just starting with $500 million. I was going to show you all these pictures. All these people, your friends, there's Mukhtar right there. There's the dumb police, and here I am. This stuff is, I'm not mad about that. I'm glad because it gives a chance to show you how stupid y'all are. That's how stupid y'all are. Getting busted upside the head like this. You ever heard this before? Lord, forgive them. They know not what they do. You ever heard that before? I'm telling you, this stuff comes alive. Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare. What's the biggest enemies of the world right now? Zionist Americanism. It's been like that, but it's really out there right now. But the Zionists, don't worry about them. They killed a Palestinian lady last week. Wouldn't even let the people carry the casket. And they beat them till they was holding a flower, the way the flowers are made in a cross. So all the Christians are saying, There's a cross. So the lady must be a Christian, right? And the dumb Zionist. You don't have to worry. All the preaching in the world is not necessary. Leave them alone.
They're working with Christians that don't even think the Palestinian Christians are Christians.
That's all right.
Well, the evangelicals don't think those are
No, they don't think that that's right.
Christians.
Uh,
They're real Christians.
they don't think they're real. They think they're Philistines. You know the Philistines? Yeah, they think they're Philistines. Okay, nope, it's close to Palestine. But it's okay. You got to look at the history. The history is going in our direction. I'm sorry. It's the tilt now is just like when we used to cut down them trees or when you open a book, when that spine cracks, that book is used. When you cut that tree and put that undercut and start hitting from the behind, and that boy wobbles a little at the top, and you hear that crack, that's up, that's just it. It's all over. That's America. That's America, and it's a Zionist. And they haven't slowed down. They still, like we running this show, and they killing this people, that people, and everybody else is making friends with other people. That's why it seems like it was a little thing, the dentist thing, and then you look in your mouth and you see the whole top is rotten, that they was putting stuff so that your whole mouth would rot. And then you wonder why you want to. I said, you just fixed those teeth up there, so why would you want to pull all four of them? Well, because they've been doing like the car place, fix the thing so it'll run down the street and stop. Why did they want to pull all of the teeth and put a freeze so they wouldn't touch me for a week until I mentioned all the stuff the other day? And they just pulled one tooth. That's all I wanted to pull. And then now I can see the others. I said, man, them boys are rotten. Because you got the right, just call and, the government said, no, fix his teeth, it's fine. So the dummies, with the government calling them, see, they're not absent-minded. The government is calling them, and they're calling the government, what you want us to do? And the people are asking at the dentist's office, how's things looking in California? What about this and what about that? They're getting special information. So I know what they're doing, just like I know the car people. Like all this FBI, they're a bunch of punks. That's okay. I'm going to move toward a close. You have to have, in order to finish him off, you have to have patience. As-sabru wa nifsul liman. Institutional memory. Historical knowledge. You have to be in this for the long haul. Just a few more things. What is your gift? What did Allah give you? Not what Allah gave everybody else. The policy that we have enacted here, I believe, is the best policy. It's the Negro policy. For this period, for this time, there's nothing better. There's nothing that got them off balance. They are off balance. There's nothing they can do. They can't go run around and collect all the videos and CDs because they don't know who has them all. And there's enough out there. And the redundancy to say the same thing over and over and over and over again. For decades. I'm telling you, for decades. We've been knowing what we've been dealing with for decades. Okay, so this is the historical, the right time. So we have to re-engineer the whole thing because the ideas that Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui had was the right thing. So there's a pause, but we have to have enough to institute his program and incorporate it with our program. And you have to have enough backup to dictate policy to the coons. And I say the coon Muslims. We have tried with just truth and right and correctness. They ain't into that. So we have to come and the system is going to have to admit or state that this nigga know what he's talking about and he has the money to get it done. Might as well give it away because this ain't going to be worth nothing in another 2-3 weeks. When this crash come, I don't know anybody else can feel it or smell it, but this boy here is going to, when it comes down, the whole thing come tumbling down. I'm not looking at it from a racist, ethno-specific point of view. I'm looking at it historical. I don't see no way out for Bossman. I just don't. Oh, it would be all right if he do. It's fine. Okay. We'll talk about families. We'll talk about snitches and all of that a little later. But snitches, heck, forget about it. Don't worry about it. If Bossman tell the snitches that's a good nigga there, go on and help him out. The snitches will help. Sure. They just got to get the clearance from Bossman. All they got to do is, you sure it's all right, boss? Yes, sir. In fact, I'll order you to help, nigga. Yes, sir. It's okay. They won't do it for you, but they'll do it for Bossman. I'm telling you. Don't worry about it. Institutional knowledge, historical knowledge, behavioral patterns, da 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 da. Oakland Expediency Council, that's what they have in Iran. Historical religious behavior. This is a historical religious period that we're going through. I don't know about y'all. I'm just going to go over a few things. I think I've mentioned a little bit about captains of industry, that years ago when I was with all the so-called gangster Negroes and all of that, you know, I would be thinking something, I would never say it though. I said, these niggas here, if they was born in a different environment and everything, I use the term in my own mind, captains of industry. This was in the 60s and the 70s. These niggas would have been captains of industry. I was just imagining that on the game that they had and the abilities they had. Then I went overseas and it proved itself out. When I saw the difference between the American Negro and the so-called learned African, whatever they was, the nigga from here was like 5,000 years ahead of time and way tougher. You could catch any one of them with a white girl and any one of them. Any one of them. And the only thing the nigga want to do is pimp. I pimp that be blankety blanket. You know what I mean? He wouldn't do right, but he wouldn't be drooling at the mouth. You know what I mean? But the African, and when they saw us, they thought that. I remember, and I'll close. I was one night, me and Dr. Branyan, who was at one of the brothers. He was mentioned in Malcolm X's book. He was press secretary for Kwame Nkrumah. We was at his house, and we were all foreigners, so all our friends and visitors a lot of them would be foreigners. So it was some East Germans there. And this East German got drunk, and he was, it sounded like an Adolf Hitler speech. I'm sure it was. It was just, where people get drunk. And then it was some more people there, white man, little woman, and they was, you think you're going to get your da-da-da-da-da? He said, in Africa right now, he's talking to me. I could get you hung there hanging, talking about Portugal at that time. See, Portugal was still, so that people are still getting hung right now. And you're talking about freedom and liberation. And then the little white woman said, well, then what would you do with me? Before I could open my mouth, Dr. John Branyan says, you would be the first to go. You'd be the first one to go. Because I didn't technically have an answer for that right off, but he knew what to say. You can say what you want, but Dr. John Branyan, he was fluent in, of course, English, and he was Lausanne, Switzerland. He was educated there, so French and Swiss, he had all them languages, and I used to say, Doc, how do you fix your mouth to say that stuff? Because he could speak perfect French. He was educated there. In Lausanne, Switzerland, of all places, probably the highest education place to get educated in medicine at that time. He said, you would be the first to go. And then that night we was taking a walk, and we walked up, and the hotel I was staying with out on the beach, what I was staying at, they was talking. And what about that big black one? Da, 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 you know. And then they saw us coming, and then they got quiet for a minute. What I'm trying to say is the experience and the history, you wouldn't know what your people have. I would say now they've destroyed most of it. They've taken most of it away. But that was a time when Negroes was really big time, bigger than they knew. They was bigger than anybody else, but they didn't know it. They just didn't know it. That's when I would be sitting there. I said, if these niggas, they would be captains of industry because of the game that they had. But in 5 years or 10 years, the white man's system will have worn them down and break up. And the white man's system got busy on me, but it didn't work. Because I got a chance to pull back and sidestep and watch. And of course, I'm thankful for Bossman. Without him, we'd be common Negroes with no future. But the white man then showed us exactly what to do and how to do it. And that he ain't nothing and he ain't nobody. And now it's worse than that. You know, his date, he done got his, like you get a release date from the penitentiary, the white man has got his default date almost. Negroes captured it. We got here all the way to the bus stop. That means we're going all the way to the end of the line. You know, where the bus goes all the way over here, then it turn around and rest a little while and come back. We're going all the way to the end of the line. Okay. And we missed all the stuff, the little stuff that they have, like the white girl trap. They was thinking that this is a big old dark nigga, he gonna like white girls. And one of the half-white ladies over there, nice, healthy-looking lady, Indian and European. So they got us staying at her house instead of a hotel, because they're trying to set the brother up, and she's showing me all her Jahiliyyah pictures. I said, this is a healthy girl here. And then you can see, one of them thick. So they're trying to set you up. But one thing about the white girls and the Negro, they would have the white girls to set you up for fornication. That's why I would always say, hey, white girl, would you like to get married? I already knew what I was doing. I've been knowing what I was doing for 100 years. I had to think about it. And all the Negroes like Hashim and them out there, UC Berkeley, they was thinking, man, Big Hanky, man, Musa is falling for these white girls. Didn't make no difference. That's why you got to discipline. You got to not care. I don't care what them niggas think. And didn't care then. And don't care now. And in fact, they're the ones, can you imagine caring about what a nigga think and he done said in front of a bunch of black women at the Masjid? You couldn't melt a black woman and pour her on top of me. I said, God, oh boy, that is. And lo and behold, he had two wives, both of them Iranians, and not dark-haired Iranians, light Iranians. Yes, indeed. The lightest Iranians, like they got, I'm telling you. So you think I care about them Negroes, them coons, and about their attitude? And they show you who the other Iranian snitches are because they're all on their team. Yeah, it's a long story. Okay. Yeah, that white girl trap and the yellow girl trap, none of that stuff worked. And when Abdul Malik come rolling around with certain people that I was married to, the first thing I asked was, well, what was y'all job? Well, we was to, you were all African revolutionary people. Yeah, our job was kind of like to get the brothers and, sex them up like, so, and when you look at their young pictures, they look pretty good. Yeah. That was their job. Was it news to me? Absolutely not. It's just part of the game. I remember when Abdul Malik we going over this. If you just trust me, talking about getting married to so-and-so. Just trust me. I said, okay, we'll see. Did I trust him? Absolutely not. Because I knew he was the police, but I acted as though I did. Sure. And he proved to be, and she proved to be, they proved to be. Everybody is who they supposed to be. Everybody then proved exactly who they was, and that's the way it is. But history is going to make its directional course correction with the Negro included. So anyway, there's a picture. Nice guy. There's a, when I left his office, first of all, what's the name? A Tattletale used to be on the TV, a sister, and she took me to his office, and was explaining that. And I was, do you remember me? Yeah, man, I remember you. Da, 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 da. Okay. When I left, he says, what can we do for you? Because they have a big spread, you think you're still the president. And they have a big fund, who you can help people. So I said, no. I said, I just came to visit. So I didn't take nothing, and I didn't want nothing. I came there for the reason I came. And this is the only political leader. Well, a lot of times we didn't have time to talk, but he says, trying to figure out something. He said, that's all right. Our spirit, something is in tune. I said, this boy here is all right. Okay. But the Uncle Toms have us surrounded. Him and me, like the Iranians going back and forth. And for him to call me, I'm getting the hospital ready to get a doggone brain surgery. And I get a call from Tehran. That's the snitch in his office, which we know, of course. That's not necessary. Why would you have somebody call GW? This is the president of Iran calling, right? The most observed, the most hated president in history, right? And the most. So that technically didn't work. We already knew what we've been dealing with all along. Anyway, dear believers, welcome. Nice articles. This is from South Africa. This whole thing, all the lectures all over. They made a magazine out of it. That's what this is from. But they didn't have any idea that we would be here today talking about what we're talking about now, because they were arrogant and they were thinking we're running this show. And they don't realize that we were paying attention to Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui, and we understood what we was looking at then and what we're looking at now. The non-territorial government, that's still in play, and we have to do it. What happened to all his supporters? Finished. They tore up the whole thing. So, Majlis Ashura Islamia, Mixito con North America. Yes, the Negro program, the Negro Rescue Program. Yeah, let's call it the Bossman Rescue Program, because he need a rescue. To tell the truth, that boy need a rescue. And he ain't got too many friends left. So it don't make no difference what he consider us. We're not discussing it anymore with him. He didn't miss the boat. We have to do what we have to do. Allah gave us a vision and a mission, and this is what we're going to do. So, aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum. Yeah, we just like to have a nice video of that. That's okay. You can leave it on if there's any questions or comments. Right. Right.
to when him coming out of in L.A. County, and that he said that the Nation of Islam had gotten him out of the 47 and 48 gang modules. And so he was mentioning at a meeting that they pointed to a cross, and it's like, why is to a cross with white Jesus, and said, do you know why that cross is there, young brothers? And whoever I guess the minister said, because you've been crossed. Do you remember anything like that from the nation?
They was all kind of the double cross, triple cross. Yeah, it's all the teachings about all that have all those kind of those teachings in it. But what I like to say is like it's not only about Ahmadinejad's time, but when I was painting over there today, I was just thinking about the last several decades. See, when we got to working on a daily, regular basis, going around giving speech with the Iranians, we was already older and we had learned what was important, and they thought what they was doing was kind of important, but they didn't know like who they was dealing with here in America. We know that when the Shah passed away and when all of that fell apart, that a lot of the agents here that were Savakis turned themselves over to the FBI. That means all of their groups was infiltrated. They were infiltrated. We knew they was infiltrated. They had a little light feeling, but they thought they had a secure, disciplined system, that they knew the parents and they knew the groups back. They knew everybody back home, and they had a folder on each guy, and all that. It don't make no difference what they had. Bossman gonna infiltrate you heavily, and you talking about what they was talking about. Good God Almighty. The point I'm making is I look forward to sometime in the future to go over there to reminisce. Usually we have a big program, all the brothers was here. And because I used to tell the brothers, I said, so-and-so, those was Negroes. I said, they were the police. And they would say, but now, see, they didn't know whether they was the police or not. And they couldn't get on one side of another here because they didn't know who we was either. Well, you look like an honest guy. I trust you. I love you, but so does he. So in the early years, I would tell them, I said, no, man. And they would make excuses for him. They said, maybe there's immaturity. And I said, them guys is the police. I mean, that was our experience. And if you pointed at an African American, anyway, he was going to be just, from that era. That's the way it was. So anyway, I look forward to going over there and reminiscing and talking about what have happened since then. Because, see, since then, those guys, they done worked hard and they helped keep this thing together. You know what I mean? And at first, when they first went back home, they wasn't trusted a lot by the people there because they've been over here and who's going to trust you. And they would ask me, well, what do we do? They trust the guy that's all they trust him but he don't have the knowledge. I mean, after all, they studied a little bit and they do have some technical but they wouldn't be it took them years to earn the people's trust. And they stuck, they stuck. So it's going to be nice with those old timers. Now, they're old timers. They would be younger than me. They would be from 65 to 75 or, somewhere. So they're all retirement type, it's going to be really to go over a lot of this stuff. It'll be a lot of "I told you so." Did I tell you about them niggas? You know that type of thing. So anyway, are there any more questions or comments? Okay, all the thing we can say is, dear believers, we're on a roll this go round. We're just like, this may not make sense to you what you've heard, but that's the way it is. We're saying, look, we're not, we're just going ahead. If you don't give us, telling you, you just give us $1 million spending money, and not 5 months from now, very soon. And then the 500 million after that, so we can use it properly. After all, what are they going to do with $500 million? Nothing. Urinate it out the window. So anyway, that's our job. The chief said it in '76, remake the world. That's who said it. The chief, I don't know if anybody ever read that article or looked it up.
Yeah, actually, I've listened to that lecture before. Yeah.
Right, remake the world. Well, the sound, the title sounds better than, because the chief, when he gets to talking sometime, you might lose the direction. It start off with a beautiful title, but, so if, like I say, if you heard it, I'll close with this. Imam Jamil, somebody gave him a lecture. He was saying he was mad. What is the point? Where is he? He was talking about ribs, riboflavin, and all kind of stuff. And, ribbon to tie the lady's hair, ribs, stuff like that. I said, what could I tell him? I said, you got to be patient with the chief, man. He, and especially, see, in the early years, the chief didn't know what to do. He had no idea what to do. And finally, after being around the Negroes, in the trenches, they helped point the way. So if there's no questions or comments, alhamdulillah, I will say this. You could turn